Tim Tszyu was meant to have a huge showcase here in America, introduce him to the American audience and grow his fan base. Has not planned out accordingly.
I don't think he really registered how dangerous of an opponent Murtazaliev was. But I was not expecting him to do that to Tim Tszyu. I mean, Tim Tszyu, I've regarded him as one of the top guys at 154.
When I watched that first knockdown, I knew it was over, dude.
Damn, Murtazaliev must have Austrian in his system because that left hook is landing.
You know, I kind of sat down and thought, I was like, is Tim really a hype job?
This is the reason why a lot of fighters don't want to risk it. Ooh. You saw how the boxing fans reacted to Tim Tszyu, calling him washed up a bum, calling them all these names. Like, no fighter wants to go through that. It's a tough road, and it's because of the boxing game is so cruel. Welcome back to another episode of the Last Round Podcast, where we cover everything from traditional boxing to influencer boxing and everything in between. In today's episode, we'll be going over the upset in Orlando between Tim Tszyu as he took on Bakhram Murtazaliev, as well as next week's upcoming fight in Manchester between Jack Catterall and Regis Prograis. But before we get into the episode, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. Lastly, don't forget to join our Discord. The best way to get in contact with us is by joining our server. Everything that I mentioned is in the link in the description below. But now diving into the episode. This week we had the return of Tim Tszyu after his loss against Sebastian Fundora back in March. And for this fight, a lot of people were expecting big things from Tim Tszyu. They deemed the fight against Sebastian Fundora as a fluke, that if it weren't for the massive cut that he suffered early on in the fight, he would have won. And so coming into this fight, a lot of people were pinning Tim Tszyu to win by knockout or just to win in general and become a champion once again and to get those big fights that he was desperately searching for. But Bakhram Murtazaliev had different plans, and in turn, we got a huge upset in Orlando.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It kind of caught everyone by surprise because, Murtazaliev is relatively unknown. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't really know that much about him either. So leading up to this fight, I did look into his record. He became the IBF champion his last fight against Jack Colque. Yeah, Jack Colque. Yeah, and 11th round stoppage. I wasn't incredibly impressed. He did look strong. He definitely looked like, he belongs in there. He's not just a walkover. But I was not expecting him to do that to Tim Tszyu. I mean, Tim Tszyu, I've regarded him as one of the top guys at 154, former world champion. And like you said, in his last fight against Sebastian Fundora, I believe the only reason he lost was because of that cut. If you look earlier in the fight before the cut, which was pretty early, it was like third round, Tim Tszyu was doing amazing in there. And so for Murtazaliev to do that to Tim Tszyu, who I regard very highly, it was super impressive, and I was shocked.
Yeah, I was shocked too, man, because this is the A side. Tim Tszyu is the A side. PBC wanted him to win. They were expecting the passing of the torch from this Russian, Murtazaliev, to Tim Tszyu, because that's what they want. The whole public wanted to see a possibility of him going up against Terrence Crawford, Vergil Ortiz, some of the other big 154 pounders that are within the, some of the other champions within that weight class. But those plans have just gone to shit. Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things play out. But very impressed. This guy is relatively unknown, but he has a very an impressive record. Very dangerous, a power puncher's record. Most of his fights have been stopped in early. So yeah, and now we know why.
Yeah. Tim Tszyu came into the fight, very confident, very like you said. I also regarded him as an elite name at 154, and to witness the absolute massacre of Tim Tszyu in that ring this past weekend was absolutely mind-boggling. I couldn't fathom it.
It was sad too. I'm gonna be honest, it hurt me.
Yeah, it did, because I mean, you last year during these times, Tim Tszyu, of course, was at the top of the world. He was champion. People regarded him very highly, and they were always pinning him up against, like you said, against Terence Crawford before Terence Crawford went up to 154. But yeah, a lot of people were expecting huge things from Tim Tszyu. I mean, he has the legendary name, the Tszyus, and huge in Australia, superstar there, selling out the arenas, pulling off great performances, and he looked unbeatable throughout last year and throughout the majority of his career. So seeing how this 2024 year for him has turned out, with the loss against Sebastian Fundora and now the stoppage loss against Murtazaliev, it's difficult to see what's next for Tim Tszyu.
Yeah, and 2 losses in a row is very harsh, and for him to get completely dominated in 3 rounds isn't good. And I feel the whole boxing community kind of just turned their back immediately, man. Like, now everyone's saying, oh, Tim Tszyu, some people are saying he wasn't ever that good. Other people are saying that he's washed and like his career is finished. He can never recover from this. I feel for that, bro, because he was like it's so crazy. Last year, he was on the top of the world, a champ. He was a world champion. A lot of people regarded him as one of the best, probably the best fighter at 154. And now everyone is turning their back on them and saying he's finished, he's washed, it's over for him. So it just shows you how cruel the boxing world is.
Yeah, for real. I'm hurt in 2 different ways. One, because he lost, right? I mean, this is a guy that I was rooting for. I've been following his career, and this guy, his father is such a legend there in Australia.
Tszyu.
Yeah. How do you pronounce it?
Kostya, I think so, right? Tszyu, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, something like that. And so every time Tim gets into the ring, I'm reminded of his father almost. Granted, I wasn't even born when he was at his elite, but just at his height or the peak of his career. Mm-hmm. But I mean, just when I first started getting into boxing, I would watch his fights and whatnot. So that was pretty interesting. That was really cool.
Yeah, and one of his biggest fights was against Zab Judah.
You
remember that? Yeah, he knocked him out. The viral KO.
Viral KO. Yeah, in the second round. So I'm reminded of that. So that kind of hurts, seeing a favorite fighter just lose, especially in that devastating fashion. But also, too, just the critics, people online talking right away, they're just disregarding him, which a few months earlier, they were like, we want to see him fight against Terence Crawford, Vergil Ortiz. But now they're like, oh, he's washed up. I guess he was always protected in Australia. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's dive more into the fight right now before we start, maybe looking at scenarios for him for the future. So going into the fight, this was a very short fight. Yeah. Only 3 rounds. Only 3 rounds. But first round, man, they were both swinging. I'm telling you right now, first round, it looked like stylistically they matched with each other. And after the first round, it looked like the fight was going to be set up for a firefight. It was great action. I mean, if you look at the CompuBox stats, Murtazaliev threw 57, Tim Tszyu threw 39. They landed at a near similar percentage. Why? So they were both active in that first round, and I mean, it had the whole crowd pumped. The people watching it online or watching the whole entire event in TV, they were enjoying it. A lot of people were like, "This is going to be a great fight." And then the second round happened, and we witnessed Tim Tszyu get dropped not once, not twice, but 3 separate occasions. And I saw people online saying, damn, Murtazaliev must have Austrian in the system because that left hook is landing. And
they're like, we've seen that before.
The thing is, here's what I believe. I believe Tim Tszyu went into the fight to make a statement. I firmly believe that he thought that the Sebastian Fundora loss was a fluke. And he wanted to make a huge statement to not only the fans, but to the division. Like, hey, that loss against Sebastian Fundora was not me at 100%. Let me prove it to you by becoming champion once again and beating this undefeated Russian. And so I believe he started off way too aggressive early on. I think he pushed the pace a bit too much, and that's what caught him. Mm-hmm. And he got caught clean with that beautiful left hook from Murtazaliev. Tim Tszyu himself said afterwards, I don't know what hit me. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't know what happened in that fight. He himself said it wasn't because of lack of preparation. He himself said he felt incredible.
Yeah.
So what happened in that fight?
Yeah, it is interesting because, okay, so the first round, immediately what I saw is, I think you're right. Tszyu was wanting to push the pace. He wanted to go forward. He wanted to, knock him out immediately. But I think that kind of worked against him because he was very tense from the beginning, from the get-go. I saw this extremely tense, and Murtazaliev looked really, really loose, really casual, really relaxed. And I didn't like that look because Murtazaliev was throwing a good amount of combinations, kind of moving around Tszyu, using his legs as well, while Tszyu was very planted, very, very, very strong, very tense, moving forward. I didn't really like that. Going into the second round, I just think it was too reckless from Tszyu. Too reckless. He didn't... I don't think he really registered how dangerous of an opponent Murtazaliev was. And if he did, he didn't think it was going to work against him. Mm-hmm. So he thought he was above him. Okay, I have better skills than him. I have better power than him probably as well. So he's going forward, marching forward. He gets caught because it was just... Murtazaliev was like in the flow state, like he was throwing punches where he needed to throw it. Whenever he'd see Tszyu react, he would react as well. And I just felt he was so in control the whole fight. Even in the first round, I gave it to Murtazaliev. The second round, I mean, it's not even a question. I mean, 3 rounds, 10-7 in the scorecards. That's
3 knockdowns.
3 knockdowns. It's insane. So, yeah, I just think Tim Tszyu came in too reckless, came in trying to bang without actually keeping his defense in check, and it costed him the fight.
Yeah, for me, I said it before. A lot of people were saying that Tim Tszyu is a hype job. So, I kind of sat down and thought, I was like, is Tim really a hype job? I don't believe so. No. So the conclusion that I've come is 2. 1, I do believe that he thought that he was going to wipe the floor. I think he overlooked his opponent, but that kind of bites you in the foot. That's actually a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing. And I think in this case it was a bad thing. And then the other one is he was distracted, I think, as well. Like just being distracted with possible other future opponents, like what I stated before, Crawford and Ortiz. Those are big mega fights, and that's possibly what he was thinking too, just not really focus on his opponent.
Well, if that was the case, if I don't believe that he was too focused on other fights. I was gonna say Costa Tszyu. Tim Tszyu has.
That's what I'm saying.
Tim Tszyu has always given me the energy of he's always focused on what's in front of him. I mean, when he was coming up over in Australia, he was always focused on beating his opponent, making sure he puts a good showing and to continue going up the ranks. And maybe there was a possibility in there now that he's at a high point of his career, or he was at a high point of his career where these mega fights were looming. So there's a possibility that maybe he was thinking about that and thinking about the future. But I mean, he's going up against Murtazaliev, and Murtazaliev is an undefeated fighter. He's Russian. He's very hard hitting, and he's the champion. I mean, I respect Tszyu a lot for coming off from the Fundora loss to taking on this undefeated champ, and I just believe he came in with the wrong game plan from the beginning. To try to make a statement, and that statement he wasn't able to pull it off. It bit him in the ass.
Yeah, and then another thing. So with Murtazaliev, no one really knew about him. He was very unknown. He became world champion his last fight against Jack. When I watched the fight, I watched highlights of it. It did not seem that impressive. He didn't seem that powerful. I don't know. He didn't seem that, high skilled, high level. That's why when I saw him going up against Tim Tszyu, I was like, okay, Tszyu is going to beat him because Tszyu has great skills. But actually, this is interesting. Murtazaliev was finishing Ramadan for his fight. So he was actually, this was a big talking point that he was weak in the fight. He didn't feel his best. He was like getting gassed out. His stamina was really low, because you're supposed to fast for the whole day. So he wasn't his A game. And I think that kind of threw me off when I saw that performance, because I was like, okay, he didn't seem that strong. He didn't seem that dangerous. Yeah, his record reflects a power puncher, but I didn't see that. He did get the 11th round KO, but it took a good amount. I think that kind of threw me off. But in this fight, it really showed me maybe this guy is the real deal. Murtazaliev is here to stay. He just defeated Tim Tszyu. Now everyone is talking about him. I saw Terrence Crawford on Twitter talking about, making a statement like, oh, people don't really know who you are, therefore they call you a bum if you're relatively unknown. It's not about popularity and all this type of stuff. We got Terrence Crawford in there. We got Vergil Ortiz, Fundora. Now, this is the guy that's going to has all the doors of opportunities, and he took it away from Tim Tszyu.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I saw people already, apart from them talking smack about Tim Tszyu, they're talking about potential matchups for this guy. And, that's going to be very interesting. I wouldn't be opposed to him fighting Terrence Crawford instead of Tim Tszyu, or maybe Vergil Ortiz as well. Unification matchup, that'd be tremendous for the 154-pound division.
Yeah, so my whole thinking right now is it always falls back on recency bias. Now that Murtazaliev beat Tim Tszyu in devastating fashion, a lot of people are now saying this man beats Crawford. This man, he can take over the division. He's the real deal. And I'm like, okay, he pulled off a fantastic performance, probably the best performance of his career against the best opponent of his career. I give him major props for that. But I'm trying not to be engulfed in the hype, because that's what ultimately happens all the time. A fighter does really good one fight, and then everyone jumps on the bandwagon, and then the second he loses, then everyone falls off, and then people start spouting stuff about the guy, saying he was never that good. Hence Tim Tszyu, what they're doing to him right now. The whole boxing world is bashing him, calling him a bum, calling him washed up, so and so, right? But for me personally, for Murtazaliev, he pulled out this great performance. That's good. I want to see more of him. If he's able to replicate this exact performance consecutively throughout his next couple of fights against elite names, of course I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon myself. I'm gonna be like, yeah, this guy's the real deal. He's pulled it off multiple times. It was no fluke the way he beat Tim Tszyu. So as of right now, I'll give him props. I'll be watching him, but I'm not gonna prematurely jump into the bandwagon right now.
That's a good point. I want to see more of Murtazaliev. I don't know him that much. He got introduced to a very big boxing audience on Saturday after defeating Tim Tszyu. Now a lot of people are paying attention to him. I want to see what he does with that. And I also want to make a point that I don't believe that Murtazaliev beat the best Tim Tszyu. That's one thing. I don't believe Tim Tszyu was 100% there. He was, his mentally he wasn't there. He was trying to rush things a little too much. He wasn't at his A game. I've seen a lot better performances from Tim Tszyu than what Murtazaliev beat. Still, very impressive for in 3 rounds to do that. A lot of power in those punches. He's like 6 feet tall.
Like 6'2", 6'1".
He's a big guy at the 154 division. He's no joke. So I want to see what he does. I want to see how he's going to go into the 154 division, because he's the champion, one of the 4 champions. And the 154 division is so deep. It's so stacked. There's so much great fighters there. There's so many opportunities to, build your career around. So I want to see what's next for him. Hopefully his managers do a good job and, introduce him. This was the introduction. I want to see who Murtazaliev really is.
Yeah. Would you mind him taking maybe, I wouldn't say a tune-up fight, but like a fight for him just kind of like a homecoming celebration, fighting somewhere where he kind of is the A side, protecting his belt, fighting back at home, then maybe going right away for a champion?
If it's a top 10 contender, I think it's fine.
Okay.
A top 10 contender, I wouldn't be, crazy about it, but I wouldn't, hate on it. Top 10 contender, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people after the fight were making hypothetical fantasy matchups for I keep forgetting his name, Murtazaliev. And people were saying, him against Sergey Bohachuk, Madrimov would be great ones, even though those two are already paired up to fight in December, I believe. So, yeah, Murtazaliev has got, he's gotten the introduction. Like you said, I agree with you. I was not too well aware of him. I just knew he was one of the champions at 154. I hadn't really watched too many clips of him, too many of his actual fights. So this was a great introduction against a top class fighter in Tim Tszyu. And now that we're talking about Murtazaliev and his career. Now, what's next for Tim Tszyu? I mean, he's coming off now his second consecutive loss. This one even more devastating. The fact that he got stopped in that manner. You know, he took a lot of damage, and even from the first knockdown, his eyes. I mean, if you look at his body language, his eyes, his face, he looked completely in shock, man. Like, he did not seem to be the Tim Tszyu that we were all accustomed to seeing, and it was sad seeing him being destroyed like that, because I like Tim Tszyu. I always regarded him highly, and to see how people are quick to bash him like that, it makes me a bit sad. And also it shows this is the reason why a lot of fighters don't want to risk it, because the fan, you saw how the boxing fans reacted to Tim Tszyu, calling him washed up, a bomb, calling them all these names. He was a hype job. He was never good. This is why a lot of fighters don't want to risk it for the biscuit, because they see all this hate that comes and criticism that comes from the fans, and they're like, shh, my career could end like that. Look at Regis Prograis. The fact that when he lost against Josh Taylor, boom, he was out there fighting on Jake Paul's undercard when Jake Paul fought Ben Askren. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge fall from grace. You go from fighting at a world elite championship level to fighting on the undercard of Jake Paul. Like, no fighter wants to go through that. It's a tough road, and it's because of the boxing game is so cruel.
Yeah, the boxing game is absolutely brutal. But I want to go back to something that you said, that I believe that the referee did a horrible job this fight. I'm going to be honest.
In what aspect?
The fight should have been stopped earlier. Oh my gosh. Like you said, I mean, after I think the second knockdown, the first one, I was like, okay, Tim Tszyu, please, get some recovery ability. No, after the second one, I knew it was over, because you could see it in his face. You could see it in his eyes. Tim Tszyu wasn't there anymore. The third knockdown happened. It was right at the end of the round. So he got saved by the bell in that second round. It would have been stopped if there was even 30 seconds left in the round. Went back to his corner, comes back. He seems okay. The doctor steps in. He seems okay. He fights for a little bit. Gets dropped again. The fourth knockdown, it was over. Yeah. If you look back at the replay, after the fourth knockdown, which happened in the third round, Tim Tszyu was out. Like, you could see it in his face. He was kind of like waddling a little bit. And the only reason why that fight continued was because Tim Tszyu was the A side. They wanted him to win. The referee was giving him every single chance to continue and recover. Thankfully, his corner threw in the towel, and then finally the ref stepped in there. But it was a very bad performance by the referee. I think it should have been stopped earlier. And it goes to show you, he took a lot of damage this fight, and that's serious. It's not no little. You don't play boxing, right? He took those punches from a very strong fighter. I think that for Tim Tszyu, he has to take a break. He has to calm down for at least 4 months, or maybe
even longer.
Yeah. Like, I'd say, like, don't even like train or work out or really take it really that hard for like a month, and then start getting back into the groove of things and fight maybe in the middle of the year towards the late end of the year next year, because it's harsh, man. You took a lot of damage, and a lot of people are talking shit about you. Go into your state, really try to lock in with yourself, and then come back when you're actually ready and take a little tune-up fight. I'm going to be honest. Take a little tune-up fight, a contender, but nothing where it's like Murtazaliev,
Yeah, for me, when I watched that first knockdown, I knew it was over, dude. Like, I didn't have to wait until the second or third or even fourth one. Basically, he got dropped by the left hook. He gets up, and he gets up pretty quickly. And then he's looking at the ref like, I'm good. Like, his eyes are like wide open. He's like, I'm good. And I was like, buddy, you're trying to convince yourself, dude. It's not even like you're not good. And then, funny enough, at the second knockdown, even one of the commentators mentioned, they're like, hey, Tim, you don't need to get up that fast. Yeah. Even the commentator was trying to give Tim advice. And yeah, he got up, and again, he had that wild, crazy look in his eyes. And then he's kind of like wobbly a little bit, but he's looking at the ref like, yeah, I'm good. But I knew it was over since the first round, or since the first knockdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now people are making hypotheticals for Tim Tszyu now, seeing what's next for him in this stage of his career. And for some reason, someone post saying, "Oh, this is the perfect time to make this matchup," and it was Tim Tszyu against Vergil Ortiz, and I said to myself, I'm like, okay, knowing Tim Tszyu, because he's a dog, he probably would be like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. Like I'll take a fight against Vergil Ortiz. It'd be a good payday in a big fight. But if I was his manager or managing his career, if I were to accept a fight like that against Vergil Ortiz, now that you're coming off from your second consecutive loss and this one was a devastating TKO loss, that's a terrible management for his career. Like, yes, Tim Tszyu's a dog. He probably would have said yes. He'd want to, get his lick back, make a huge statement again. But for fans to be pinning Tim Tszyu against Vergil Ortiz or any top elite fighter at 154 right now, as of the moment he's ending his career at the moment, it's suicide.
Yeah, it's dumb.
It's the most unrealistic, it's the stupidest way to manage his career, and I think you'd be disgracing yourself if you were to make that matchup against any elite. So I agree, making him fight against at least the top 10 contender in there, maybe back in Australia, get him back to his, get the ball rolling again, would help him at the end. But as of right now, I agree, he has to take some time off. This was big damage he took. Very not the way he wanted 2024 to go. Lost his belt, lost his O, and he got stopped. Mm-hmm. So regrouping, rehabilitating, physically and mentally would be the best approach for him at the moment.
Yeah, I don't even know who the hell was mentioning Vergil Ortiz after that performance. I mean, completely cancel that. I did see something about a Jermell Charlo return, because Jermell Charlo, he's had his own personal problems, but he still has a very big name. I believe he's still in 2 of the belts. He's the champion in recess in the WBA and the WBC at 154, because he was formerly undisputed. So I mean, that boy is, I guess, technically still champion.
I believe he comes back in January. That's
what I heard too. I heard he has a fight lined up or something like that. So I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts at the 154. A lot of big names that are coming. I think Keith Thurman also. I remember Keith Thurman. He was actually a commentator for PBC on Saturday, and he was talking about that he was supposed to fight Tim Tszyu before it got rescheduled for Fundora. So like, there's so much big names in there at 154. There's a lot of moving parts. Tim Tszyu just has to his management hopefully is smart enough to say, hey, let's relax for a minute, let's regroup, and then let's come back with the fight that for sure we're gonna win.
Yeah, for me, if I was Tim's buddy, I'd be like, hey, we gotta do what Anthony Joshua did for like a month. Just go straight into a cave. Yeah. No outside connection whatsoever. Just find yourself and rediscover your passion, for the sport. 2, a lot of moving parts. You mentioned Keith Thurman. Mm-hmm. The reason why Tim is in this position is because of Keith Thurman. Yeah. Tim Tszyu was supposed to make his U.S. debut, come here to America and go up against one-time Keith Thurman. Mm-hmm. And sadly, Keith Thurman sustained an injury. Mm-hmm. So that's when they brought in Fundora, and then that's when the whole downward spiral has come from Tim's career. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, first off, Thurman would have gotten obliterated.
He would have
gotten obliterated. I mean, Thurman isn't an active fighter. I mean, the last fight he had fought was against Mario Barrios, and that was fucking ages ago at this point. He's essentially actively retired.
Yeah, he's semi-retired.
He's not. Yeah, he's not a very active fighter anymore. He's really just in the sideline. He just talks. He had this opportunity against Tim Tszyu back in March, didn't happen. So Fundora stepped in, even though they were meant to fight on the same card. Fundora also had his own opponent, and then they got changed up.
Yeah.
But so this was Tim Tszyu was meant to have big fights, to have a huge showcase here in America, introduce him to the American audience and grow his fan base. Has not planned out accordingly, and now he has to reevaluate everything, and hopefully he has the good team to do so. I do think he does have a good team, and I hope that they do make the best choice for his career, because now he's 29, 2 losses. There's big, deep, very tough division he's at. So they gotta be very smart in what they decide to do next with him. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about with Tim Tszyu and Murtazaliev in this fight? Nothing else? Okay. Well, that leads us to our next topic of conversation, which is the return of Regis Prograis, guys. The man who took on Josh Taylor, the man who took on oh my gosh, what's his name? The dude who fought against Zepeda in that fight of the year 2020 when they knocked each other.
Ivan Red. No.
Well, he did fight Ivan Redback.
Yeah.
That was the Jake Paul undercard one.
Yeah. You're talking about that short guy.
Yeah. The
KO of the year against Zepeda.
That fight. Yeah, I mean, he's fought. So Regis Prograis' last fight was against Devin Haney, and it was not the showing that Prograis wanted. He got absolutely dismantled. He got outclassed, and people were now saying Regis Prograis, he's washed up now. He's not the same fighter that he was back when he was coming up back in 2017, 16, 17, 18, around that time. And he's going up against in form Jack Catterall. Jack Catterall coming off a very great performance against Josh Taylor over the summer. And I'm expecting Jack Catterall to do his thing. He's one of the better contenders at 140. He's one of the fighters who, when I see him fight, I'm like, okay, he's got some dog in him. I do think he would be a solid challenger if he were to fight for the belts. And this is a good fight for him in the aspect that it's against the name and Regis Prograis. And I'm interested to see how this fight goes, to see if Regis Prograis there's still some life in Prograis' career. What do you guys think? Yeah,
because that was it's a big talking point. I mean, like you said, he got outclassed against Devin Haney. Not only did he get outclassed, he got the world record for least punches landed in a world title fight, a world title bout.
I thought it was both landed and thrown.
Yeah. Probably, because it was kind of sad to see. Like, it was kind of depressing. Like, it was bad. 120, 108 or whatever. Horrible performance by Regis. He did have, his career was all right. He lost a very split, I think it was a split decision against Josh Taylor, which Josh Taylor ended up becoming the man at 140. So people still highly regarded Regis. He went up and he finally got a world title. And then that Devin Haney, and we haven't really heard much from him since. Now he's scheduled to fight Jack Catterall. And like you said, Jack Catterall is in form right now. He is on fire. And I knew of Jack Catterall, but I wasn't sold on him. I didn't really think he was going to make it to the top of the 140 division. But his performances against Josh Taylor were very impressive. Not only did he show me what I already knew, he's a very slick fighter. He's very smart. He can put his combinations together. Very, very hard opponent to beat. But he also has that dog. He's not just some guy, like a Shakur Stevenson who runs around the ring and tries to box you. No, he could stand there sometimes and he can land some hard punches. He's not scared. He doesn't back down. He's very strong mentally. So I'm sold on Jack Catterall. And I think this fight, he's going to show out again really, really good. Regis Prograis, I'm not expecting too much from him. But we never know, sometimes that adversity can make you stronger, and maybe he's gonna put up an even harder fight, or it could break you as well. And he can go in the ring, and we could see he's a shell of his former self. We'll have to wait on Saturday, but I'm still expecting a great Jack Catterall victory.
Yeah, for me, this is an interesting matchup because I really thought that we weren't gonna see much of Regis, at least for a while. So he's coming back now. I know one thing he mentioned in his loss against Devin Haney is that he didn't use too much like movement. So that's like the main thing that I'm gonna see if there's any implementation of that with this fight against Jack. So I'm looking for that. Just like Jack, Regis, he also has a dog in himself. So I'm interested to see. I'm guessing that even if he doesn't have that implementation of the legs, maybe using the legs a little bit more, whether as a defensive move or an attack move. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. He's gonna stand there and go for it. Stand there in the middle, go blow for blow. But Jack. Yeah, just like what you said, I wasn't completely sold on Jack, but it wasn't until his last two fights, or when he fought Josh Taylor, is when I was kind of really sold on him. I truly believe that he won the first time against Josh, and he won he for sure won it the second time. So I think now he's a serious contender at that weight class, and I think he's here to stay. So I'm expecting a good performance, with him.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say he's like a super serious, like top elite contender at 140. He's solid. I'll give him that. I don't think he's a very. I wouldn't. If you were to go up against a champion at 140, I would edge it towards the champion. I think he'd be a good challenger, a good solid contender, but I don't see him that elite.
What about Puello or Devin Haney?
Yeah. Devin Haney would outclass.
I think
He would outclass
I think
Jack
he'd be closer.
Devin Haney. Okay, a lot of people like to shit on Devin Haney because of the whole thing, and rightfully so. The way he's presented himself since the Ryan Garcia fight has been shambolic and honestly very. Yes, he's been giving himself a bad image and a bad look. But to say that Devin Haney would not outbox like nearly like 90% of the 140 division would be a lie if you didn't believe that. I still rate Devin Haney high, even though I don't consider him to be the best at 140 or even the top 10 pound for pound, which is a lot of people have him. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe he is, but I think he's still a very good fighter. He's not champion though. Yeah, he's not champion. No. So Devin Haney, I believe he could still be a champion. So a lot of people just shit on him. But against Jack Catterall, I would give it to Devin Haney.
What about Valenzuela?
Oh, see, that would be a good one. I mean, that's another one that they're hypothetically trying to match up. Haney against Valenzuela. And, well, I mean, we got to make sure that Valenzuela isn't fighting Pitbull, supposedly, for a rematch next year early on. So we got to see about that. But Valenzuela and Devin Haney would be a good one. Mostly in the aspect that one, Valenzuela very quick and he hits hard. I mean, we're talking about a champion at 140 who, I mean, he destroyed the hype train of Pitbull Cruz, and now it was the biggest win of his career. He's now looking for bigger fights at 140, and I think that would be a better matchup for me. I'd have to see how Devin Haney looks, man. Yeah. He needs one more fight before he gets a shot at a champion again to see how he's recovered from that whooping he got from Ryan. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case with me too. Like he has to fight again in order for me to say if he's if he can go up against these elite guys again, because this is a weight class that is changing constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 140 division, like the 154, is also very, very strong. There's a lot of great fighters at 140 and a lot of possible fighters that are going up to 140. I mean, Tank obviously is always flirting with the idea of moving up, so that would be another great fight. Yeah, the 140 division is stacked, and Catterall, we'll see how he does against Prograis, right? We just got to continue to see how he performs. But honestly, I've been really impressed by his last two performances. I think there is a case to be made that Josh Taylor his skills kind of have been going down since the Teofimo Lopez fight. He hasn't been doing that great. Still, though, you can't deny he was an undisputed champion at 140, and he was the top guy at 140. So for Catterall to do that, I think is very impressive. So it'll take some time, but I don't see too much problems going into this fight for Jack Catterall. Prograis still has that dog, like you said he does. He definitely still has that dog. But I'm expecting him to get over this and look for a world title challenge.
Yeah, my predictions. I think Jack Catterall stops Regis Prograis. I think I just don't see the same Regis Prograis anymore that he used to, show when he would fight early or when he was at the peak of his power. Mm-hmm. So I think we're gonna get a stoppage win for Jack Catterall. I think he's gonna make a name for himself again, and he's gonna put himself in a position where he's gonna be guaranteed a title shot sometime in the future of 2025, hopefully. So that's my prediction: a Jack Catterall knockout, TKO, whatever it is.
Okay, before or after the 6th?
See, now we're getting too specific. I think after. It's gonna be a second half stoppage.
For me, yeah, I'm gonna go with my boy Jack. But I'm gonna go with a decision victory. I'm gonna go majority.
Majority. So it's gonna be close.
I mean, majority doesn't necessarily mean close. I mean, 2 out of the 1 judge.
A majority.
3 judges.
A majority means 1 judge had it a draw.
That's close, bro.
That's pretty close.
But I thought majority was when 2 judges had it for a guy and then the third one has it for another guy.
No, that's split.
Oh, that's split?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Bro. Bro, you this.
Yeah. I'm also thinking. I'm thinking a decision for Catterall. I don't think he's gonna stop him because I haven't seen that much crazy power from Catterall. I'm expecting him to outclass him, maybe land some good shots. I would say there's gonna be a knockdown in there though. I can see a knockdown from Catterall. You know, I mean, Devin Haney knocked down Prograis, you know, and Devin Haney is world renowned for his pillow hands. So, yeah, I'm expecting a UD decision, unanimous for Catterall. It's gonna make it look easy.
Yeah. So our official predictions for this week's fight in Manchester between Jack Catterall and Regis Prograis. So hopefully we get a good showing from Jack Catterall because we all have him winning. And I mean, if he wins, he, like I said, puts himself in a position of a world title shot, hopefully sometime in 2025. So let's see how the fight unfolds. But you guys have anything else you guys want to discuss about the fight or about anything else? No? Well, let us know down below. What are your thoughts about the fight? Do you think Regis Prograis is going to be able to bounce back and hopefully get himself into a position of a title shot sometime in 2025? Or do you think his time is up and Jack Catterall is too much in form and is going to make it look easy this upcoming weekend? Also, let us know about Tim Tszyu. What are you guys' thoughts about him? What's next for him in his career? And Murtazaliev, do you think he beats Terence Crawford? Many people are pinning him up against him and believe so. So let us know what you guys think about these fights down in the comment section below. Also, make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media. We are on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Lastly, don't forget to join our Discord. We're trying to build up a community. And the best way to get in contact with us and to discuss boxing is by joining our server. So everything that I mentioned is down in the link in the description below. But this was Pablo, and I am with Rudo and Asa, and this was the Last Round Podcast. Thank you for watching.